Okay, well, hello. It is another episode of Three Homos and a Pussy. We have our usual crew here today. We got Tennyson, Gabbles, and Danimal in the house, as well as me, Kava. I think we should, it's the end of March. And you know what March is?
Oh, famously known as Women's Month.
Exactly. And I think now that we're at the end of March, we can reminisce on all the things and all the ways that we appreciated women this month. So let's open by each of us talking about how we appreciated women this month. Tennyson.
I think an important question to ask ourselves is, what is a woman? And the answer to that is, a miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
Kick his fucking ass off the show.
That's right, you're out. The correct answer is, for those of you at home, you don't know because you're not a biologist. So, Gabbles, how about you? What's your favorite woman moment of this auspicious year?
Well, I really appreciate how they don't get, now that I wasn't really troubled with women this month because I wasn't really around any.
Whoa, based.
Good for you.
Got that
Good
Sigma grind set going?
Yeah, the Ligma grind set too.
All right, Danimal, what do you appreciate about women?
I appreciate how emotionally stable they typically are. I appreciate how quiet they are. And yeah.
Yeah, well, I there are a lot of moments this month that made me realize how much I appreciate women. So I'm going to just show a couple images here of my favorite women moments of the year 2022. So, women, they're great at sports. They can do anything. They can become Fox News hosts, I guess. They can become Department of Health.
Excuse me, Assistant Department of Health people.
Assistant Department of Health people. They can be told to be quiet by bread tubers. That's pretty cool.
As they should, inshallah.
I love watching Twitch streamers / possible child molesters shouting at female fantasy writers. That's my favorite genre of Twitter.
Indeed. And then I like women who are obsessed with ratios and getting other streamers banned. That's also very cool. And
I heard
running catboy farms with minors.
That's true. I heard from a source that Destiny raped somebody.
Yeah, what source would that be?
What are these?
I don't know. Some lady on the internet that just said it, but it's because a woman said it. I mean, it's got to be true, right?
It's true.
What are these? What are these catboy farms you speak of?
Oh no, he doesn't know about the catboy farms.
I don't know about the catboy farms. Should I be aware of the catboy farms?
Because
it sounds like I shouldn't be, or it doesn't sound like something I would necessarily want to be aware of.
We're gonna move on from the catboy farms. I'll let you in on that later. But yeah, just great women moments. Women are amazing. They can do anything. They can rise to the top of any industry they enter. It's just really been an inspirational year. I know it's been inspirational for me, but I think this will be a good year for women as a whole. And in celebration of that, we're going to celebrate women who don't understand sexuality. I don't know. How would you sum this up?
Yeah, don't really kind of really trying to pathologize personality traits into. I saw that, by the way. I just saw that video you put up.
Yeah, I used the wrong thing.
Okay.
Hold on.
But yeah, I would say it's somebody who really does not want to be normal. She really doesn't want to be normal.
I mean, we're talking about demisexuality. What has everyone's experience been with this concept? Because I know I heard about it very early on.
I mean, we've made fun of it a bunch in previous videos,
especially
from our favorite gay porn star who's also a demisexual, asexual, OnlyFans person.
I remember back when back in the 2010s, I had for about 3 years, I had a Tumblr account. And I remember reading a bunch of stuff where people would just reblog crazy shit that some tiny blogger had said about this or that sex or gender thing. And that's where I first heard about the concept of demisexual. And even back then I thought that's weird. Then I also started a Twitter account. And over the 2 years
where
that
it all went wrong.
Yeah, that's because once Tumblr basically shuttered, everybody went to Twitter. And if Twitter wasn't already a crack-fueled nightmare enough, it got worse. It went from a crack-fueled nightmare to a meth-fueled nightmare. And that's where you started to see all of this sex and gender stuff multiply. It's like watching bacteria in a petri dish, and you just leave it unattended for weeks, and it just grows and grows and grows, like that one damp sock in your closet. But
what are you doing to that sock? Yeah, what are you doing to that sock, Tenny?
There's some interesting biome living in that sock.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice try, FBI. Not gonna fall for that one again. But anyway,
does that sock smell like a protein shake that was left in a hot car?
I'll have you know, I eat my daily dose of pineapple.
That was unneeded, Tenny. That was way too far. Way too far.
Oh no!
Oh, the pineapple is too far.
Pineapple, too far. This is a family show, guys.
Well,
trigger warning: pineapples.
Yeah. Gavels, where did you first learn you were demisexual?
I think it was probably the first time I watched the movie Ghost.
And you had an emotional bond with Patrick Swayze?
No, Demi Moore.
Oh.
Demisexual, right? That's what that is.
Oh!
Zing!
I was actually for Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh.
Do not approve.
Does she turn your color purple?
I'm going to kill you.
Oh, no. See, demisexual, I think because I was on LiveJournal back in the pre-Tumblr days, this was something that would come up. And it was almost exclusively used by women. Nowadays, more men are dipping into it for some reason. We'll have to discuss why that is. But even back then, it was just approached as people who want to be special. So for those not in the know, those watching right now and saying, what the heck are you talking about? Demisexual, which will be explained in this video by Kelsey Ellison, is the orientation where you don't want to have sex with people unless you have a close emotional bond with them.
It's unclear if that's reciprocal. If they also have to have an emotional bond with you, because she says I a lot. It's unclear if that's a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, it's like basically they claim they can't feel sexual arousal unless there's an emotional bond first. So, but yeah, it's a really easy way to get into the umbrella. So there are a good number of people who will claim that they're LGBT and say, "Oh, it's because I'm demisexual." You see.
Well, it's one of those labels that fall under the eponymous word queer. It falls under the queer umbrella. You're a queer.
You're a queer if you're unusual at all in any way.
Yep. I still remember, this is in basically prehistory, when the word queer was an insult.
It still is.
If you call someone queer, it's still pretty good.
I'm very insulted by queer ideology.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's more of an insult these days.
Very much so. Well, shall we get this show on the road?
Sure, let me take the thumbnail down.
Hello you, I hope you're good. So my name is Kelsey Ellison and I identify as demisexual. So for me, demisexual means that I do not feel sexual attraction unless I have a really strong emotional bond with somebody. Another label? Oh, the tea I'm gonna get from the comments in this. Oh, it's hot. There's a reason I wanted to make this video.
All right.
Oh, I was going to say something. Yeah. I want to say I found a video on her channel from 2 years ago where she did like a Q&A about, so she's a musician. She's done, I guess, a Harry Potter fan film from what I figured out. And she had like uncredited roles and like, well, an uncredited role in like Solo, a Star Wars story. So a big movie, so she must have connections in the business and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, she did a Q&A a couple of years ago where she talked about her sexuality. And in that Q&A, she says like, you know what? I don't really like labels. I think they're very restrictive, very limiting. Like, I guess I'm bisexual, demisexual, whatever. But, it doesn't like fully describe me. Like, I just am me. So that was her 2 years ago. This is her, 3 months ago?
Changed your mind.
Changed your mind. Yeah. Think about that while she talks about how important labels are.
video, I saw a picture on Gay Times explaining what demisexual was, and the comments were very interesting, and I realized that a lot of people still have a lot of misunderstandings what demisexual is, didn't even realize it was a thing, and hence the comment, another label, oh my gosh, do we not have enough labels? It's just embarrassing now. Labels are restricting, labels are not making it, we're supposed to be fighting for freedom, but labels are restricting us. That was a very, very common comment on this post.
What do we make of this idea that too many labels?
Yeah, it's true.
I think there's a lot of validity to the idea.
What is the problem with having too many labels? What seems to be the breakdown?
Well, I think it's the same problem as you get with the concept of intersectionality. Because of intersectionality, the idea is that you have all these different identities or descriptors that intersect to create a unique person. So that a person could identify a black identity, a lesbian identity, and a female identity that would intersect and be oppressive to varying degrees. But eventually, if you intersect enough times, you end up with the individual, just an individual person. It's no longer a group descriptor. It's just it describes a single, unique entity that can't be replicated elsewhere. But I think this is the same issue, just instead of applying to, say, feminism or to Black studies, where intersectionality originated. You get it applied to sexual and so on labels. So a person can go from being just gay or lesbian or transgender or transsexual to, a demisexual, non-cis normative, homoromantic, bisexual, yada yada yada, until with enough time and labels, you end up just describing a single human being. It no longer becomes a descriptor for a group of people, like gay or lesbian or trans. It just describes a single person. And of course, we've sort of mapped out all the different, sexual identities and gender identities that you could have. And so now we're just moving into personality traits and individual preferences, things that make a person distinct from other people, individual tastes and individuality in general. And we started to sort of disassemble or deconstruct individuality into this compartment, this compartment, this compartment, this compartment. And we're just you wind up taking an individual and breaking them down into their material components.
Yeah, there's something very dissecting about it, about having that profile where you have 20 signifiers listed in your description. Something you're not really a whole person anymore. You're just a series of parts, and it doesn't really come together. I mean,
sort of
as
series
you say,
of aggregates.
It's kind of, you become very fractured, and I think even though you would think it ends up with you as an individual on the other side, I think what it ends up doing is actually completely separating you from any kind of sense of belonging, which I think really is important to an individual. To really define an individual, you have to fit somewhere in a community. And if you have 50 different descriptors, where on earth do you have context? You're just sort of all over the place.
I think it's also pretty limiting on like a person's social relationships, because when you're applying all these labels to yourself, you're really only going to be, and it's such an important part of your life that you're just wearing it on your sleeve. It's your whole thing. It's your whole identity. I mean, you are taking your identity and chopping it up into parts and making it buttons out of it and putting it on yourself. And if you don't find somebody who shares that same jargon, shares that same understanding, you're probably not going to be in a friendship with them and a relationship with them. You're going to seek people that also speak your language, speak your jargon. So I think just applying all these labels to yourself also just limits you socially in that way.
Yeah, it's kind of been the same problem that I've had with like people who call themselves pansexual, because it's just like a body type preference. Like you like both genders, so why should like any type of body be different? I don't get it.
I thought pansexuality was to be more trans inclusive. That's the purpose behind it, right?
That's what some people use to try to rationalize it, in contrast to bisexual. Like I've heard people describe pansexual as you'd be willing to sleep with somebody regardless of their gender, whereas bisexuality is just attraction to both sexes. So for a pansexual person would be open to dating a transgender person, whereas a bisexual would not necessarily be automatically open to that. I think that's a very silly distinction, but that's how some people justify calling themselves pansexual.
I suppose it's possible. I'm not sure what the rationale would be for a bisexual person to not be open to dating a trans person.
Exactly.
Unless you just find the mismatch unappealing, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they're just not into it.
They just don't like men dresses. Be really crude about it, right? They don't like male genitalia on a feminine presenting person.
Yeah.
I suppose. But yeah, I think for some people the pansexual label has become another way to become increasingly special.
So why we went over kind of like the labels, how you're just kind of dehumanizing yourself kind of by just chopping yourself into all these parts, and maybe it impacts social relationships.
Maybe a better word would be better word might be de-individuation.
That's what I was reaching for, but I'm not as smart as you, Tenny.
Oh.
But why do they want to be part of gay so bad? What is it? What is the attraction for these people to want to be part of that gay side of things?
I think that's a good question. It might be more relevant later in the video.
Yeah.
She is going to talk about how it belongs in the LGBT circle, so I think that'll come up later.
Okie doke.
And I realized, I think I needed to make a video on this because there was a lot of misunderstandings that I personally believe are misunderstandings. So we're going to do a deep dive into this, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll kind of understand a little bit more what demisexual is and not feel like it shouldn't exist. And if you end this video and you still feel that
framing, whenever they say like, if you say it doesn't, it's because you don't want it to exist. You don't want me to exist. It's like, no, it's just people don't agree that the thing you are categorizing is a real construct. They don't think those things exist.
Yeah, I think the intimate connection between identity and existence is kind of silly, because you would still exist even if your identity, or at least your public identity, didn't exist as a unique thing. You would still be a person. You just wouldn't have the label that you gave yourself.
And the qualities you're describing in yourself that you call demisexuality would still exist even if the concept of demisexuality was never brought up. Those underlying things still are there. So I don't understand this insistence that, oh, you just want to erase me, or you just want us not to exist. Like, that's not how these things work. Whatever. I think it's emotional blackmail or something. It's very manipulative.
Can I say where I think the demisexual and stuff kind of comes from? Like demisexual, pansexual. Well, not really pansexual, but like these kinds of terms that are taking kind of normal behavior, like demisexuality is wanting to be in a relationship with someone before you have sexual relations with them, basically. You know, asexual, the way that I see it described a lot is, you know, I don't feel like I want to have sex with every person I see or all the time, and I have a very low libido. That means I have the sexuality. So they're taking kind of normal spectrums of human life and pathologizing them. I think that comes from the notion within, say, something like queer theory, which is, I think we're all agreed that that's where these terms come from. And it taking this idea of cis heteronormativity and saying that that is the oppressor class, and the oppressor class is bad. You know, she's young, she's probably Gen Z. And just all their lives are being put into their heads that the oppressors are bad people, the oppressors are bad people. You know, you don't want to be part of the oppressor class, and the oppressor class is cis heteronormativity. So I think that's why these people who would just, I mean, that's just normal behavior. Demisexuality is just normal behavior. That's just how a lot of people function in romantic relationships.
It's definitely a normal variation.
Yes. And they don't want to be part of the oppressor class. So they want to create these terms to set themselves apart from the oppressor class. I think that's what it is. Not to be too James Lindsay about it, but there's Marxist streaks to it.
I think you're right.
I wonder how much of it, at least on the internet, might be due to, I guess, dopamine burnout with things like pornography. Because we did an episode a little bit ago on the deleterious effects of pornographic content, and I wonder if there's a certain subclass of people online that we might call, I guess, like Coomers, people whose dopamine has sort of been burnt out over and over because, well, they consume so much of that stuff.
Well, I don't think that she's she talks about how she. Yeah, I don't get the sense that she is.
No, but
You'll see in the video she talks about how she has a strong aversion to porn or things like that. But I do get what you're saying, especially the people who have the sexualities that are more based around very specific sexual acts.
yeah,
Like zoophilia.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think even
Stop.
there might be some branches of asexuality that is affected by this, and I would specifically look to certain kinds of girls who are addicted to not necessarily visual pornography, but written pornography.
Especially romantic.
Yeah,
romantic.
and how that really warps their perception of sex and then their perception of how they want sex.
Like
their perception of
maybe
love
Harry
as
Potter
well, too.
fanfics.
Yeah, all of that. And, you know, who knows, we might talk about that someday.
Yeah, kind of like Harry Potter fanfiction.
Oh.
Yes, kind of like that.
Hey, my husband likes Harry Potter.
Does he write fanfiction? Who does he ship?
He doesn't ship anybody, but we do have a Sword of Gryffindor and a Marauders map hanging on our wall in the loft.
Yay!
Oh,
Look, come on now. It's
fuck me.
all right. I love them.
I'm pretty sure that qualifies as obscenely gay.
Okay, come on now. Look.
All right, let's keep going. Let's not bully Daniel anymore.
Same way, then that's fine. So, to start off with, yes, another label, yes, another description to describe something. I don't see why there's a problem having a label for something. We use labels all the time for absolutely anything. We label everything. Those are stairs. We call them stairs.
Yeah, but there's not people out there saying like, oh, well, you need to call those elevated foot platforms or else you're committing violence.
It's also you're not taking every kind of stair with every kind of iteration of stair and giving it a different name, right? You're taking these minutia of differences that really don't matter, and you're creating entire categories for them. It's actually makes understanding of these things less reasonable. Because these are, as we said, demisexuality, as they describe it, it's just a normal variation on human experience. It's not a sexual orientation. It's just a preference or a way a certain person is.
Yeah, it's not because like something like gay or something like lesbianism or something like bisexuality isn't how you want to have sex or how you have sex. It's about who you're romantically attracted to. That's makes the division between that. And this is more like what gets you sexually excited, which is, I don't know. It's different. That's what I'm saying.
What kind of sexuality is it that likes to take long strolls on the beach?
Women.
Female sexuality.
The female. And that's something I want to talk about because I think a lot of the asexual spectrum stuff is just female sexuality through a lens that feminists and others have come to try to interpret female sexuality. They think it should act like male sexuality. Like the reason women don't experience sexual desire the same way men do is the patriarchy, and if we just get rid of the patriarchy, women will just be just as horny and just as desirous of sex in the same way, even as men. And there's just no evidence for it, biologically or anything. Even the literal cycles of hormone changes in women is fundamentally different from men, which gives them very different sexual desires over the course of their menstrual cycle and other cycles.
Yeah, you see that meme play out a lot of like the females acting like male sexuality in like those very like girl boss shows, like that Amy Schumer show or like Broad City.
Yeah.
Very, very girl bossy, feministy shows.
And it's just not typical. That's actually the atypical behavior set.
That's a name for it. That's a stool. We've called that a stool.
No, you call that poop.
And I feel like we've gotten to a point where a lot of people believe that we've gotten to the stage where language is absolute. We've found everything to do with language. We can't have any new terms. We can't change anything. But I don't believe that's true. Humans are constantly evolving.
Is that the argument against the terms? Is that just we can't have any more language?
That's it.
That seems like a very stupid argument, honestly.
Well, and I don't blame her too much. I don't think that she's like presenting herself as a scholar in this. She's just kind of talking about what she thinks. So I don't want to dump on her too much.
Yeah, but like I have heard people make an argument that boils down to words have meaning, therefore a word can only have one meaning at a time. You know, which is
or that words can't change. And I've experienced this with my last video. I didn't get much pushback, but I got, a couple of people saying, no, you're wrong. Gender means this. Gender means sex. I'm like, well, I mean, you can certainly believe that. How useful is that going to be going into these conversations? Good luck.
You see this crop up a lot too with the people wanting to push neopronouns or xenogenders. It's like, what? Language is just set. It's you can't say you can't add more words to it. And it's like, no, we're saying you can't add fucking dumbass words to it.
It has to have a function, right? That's the whole point. Pronouns, the reason pronouns, you just can't keep adding more pronouns is because pronouns are supposed to be a simplification of the process.
And you guys still haven't called me hams or ham self whenever you're referring to me.
But yeah, you don't take something that's supposed to make things simpler and then complicate it. You don't do that. You might make it more simple. You could collapse all pronouns into one pronoun. That would be fine. Plenty of languages don't have pronouns based on sex. But to make it more complicated, people aren't going to buy it. They aren't going to bite.
So you're saying the perfect gender neutral culture is the Marklar aliens from South Park?
Probably. I don't know the reference.
Oh.
I'm not a South Park person.
And we do have names for everything. And I feel like demisexual was one of those things. There's never been a point in history where we've just stopped making language and names and labels for things. It's inherently what we do to help us describe what something is. And any label, not just demisexual, I believe is valid because of that. It's not like we just stopped evolving. But I feel like a lot of people feel like we have. Also, demisexual is actually not a new label. It was...
Before she gets into that, can I just... Pet peeve is like when you're annoyed by something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get really annoyed when people go like, oh, could you grab my iPhone? And not just grab my phone for me. Like just don't do that.
Wait, I'm not sure what part of that ticks you off.
No, it's like the over specificity. It's like, oh, do you want to go for a drive in my Ford Focus?
There's all sorts of words where the brand is like the name, like a Kleenex.
Yeah.
I think everybody calls it a Kleenex instead of facial tissue.
That sounds like
phone. Come on,
who say that.
phone.
It
I think
sounds
there's
like
even a linguistic term for that, where like the brand becomes the name.
It becomes genericized, like aspirin or Band-Aid.
Jacuzzi.
Yeah.
But no, Gabbles, what you're describing just sounds like somebody who wants to rub it in your face that they have a Ford Focus or an iPhone. It's like those.
Nobody wants to rub in anybody's faces that they have a Ford Focus if they have a Ford Focus.
That is not a brag. No.
I drive a Dodge Stratus.
But yeah. Oh, this part's funny. Let's play this.
Yeah, let's take a running start at it because we missed a bit there.
Yeah, we did.
Of that. It's not like we just stopped evolving, but I feel like a lot of people feel like we have. Also, demisexual is actually not a new label. It was created in 2006 by a user of an internet forum belonging to the Asexual Visibility and Education.
It's not a new label. It was just created in 2006 by an internet forum user.
Yeah,
It's totally
2006.
Yeah.
Probably on some Tumblr page or something.
Sounds like 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't coined by some like researcher or PhD lecturer or something. It was just coined by some rando on a forum in 2006.
That's when the Wii came out. That's like ancient technology.
Yeah, basically. Son of Zeal, which is the username that she will butcher in a second. Yeah, like who is this person? How did they come to this conclusion? How did they decide that this set of traits is worthy of a distinct label that actually appropriately groups people? I don't know. They just made it up. Cool. We started using it. No one's actually researched this. It's fine.
Network. In the thread, Somfizzle describes his experience of not being sexually attracted to people without first forming an emotional connection. Felt neither asexual nor non-asexual and created the term to more accurately describe needing an emotional bond as a prerequisite to sexual attraction. By 2008, the term had entered common vernacular. I can read. I promise I can read. And started to have widespread use. But apparently, I actually didn't realize the term demisexual until about 3 or 4 years ago. I hadn't really heard of it.
It's super old, guys. I didn't even know about it until 3 or 4 years ago.
She says it entered common vernacular in 2008. What exactly is common vernacular? Because
Internet speak.
Internet slang is not necessarily common vernacular. It certainly wasn't in 2008. Like, internet slang in the 2000s is not what I would call common vernacular.
I don't think if you asked people on the street what a demisexual was, they would know what you're.
Yeah.
This is still fairly cringy internet speak.
I mean, by evidence that people have to make videos like this explaining what demisexual is.
And they keep doing it. This is one of my favorite things about YouTube is they'll have concepts that they're like, it's really simple, guys. It's really easy to explain. And then you look it up on YouTube and there's 5,000 videos of people trying to convince you that this thing is real, that it works, and that it's this thing. And man, no one's persuaded, are they? They keep having to do this.
I mean, Cobb, that's usually how language shifts work, right? It's just a word you just need to be convinced to use the word. It just doesn't enter your vocabulary naturally.
Keep making YouTube videos telling you how to use the word, and eventually it enters vernacular. That's how language works. Yeah, I think you're right.
And then also with vague threats. Don't forget the vague threats. That's
vague,
how you make
emotional threats. What accent do you think she has? I'm trying to figure it out.
I think she's British because I was watching the videos where she was talking about her class I, and she said she got it from the NHS.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe
very unusual British accent. I've never.
It seems like it might be Midlands, maybe slightly Northern English.
Yeah, I would guess kind of northern. It's almost got that Irish just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty, so I'm not gonna dunk on that.
So, are there any like historical records of like homosexuality or bisexuality or heterosexuality, like in time?
Oh yeah, you can go. Yeah,
A lot of that.
I mean, there was laws in ancient Assyria about what would happen if two men got together and one of them raped the other one. That's a specific law.
Yeah,
because at the same time, demisexual was a thing. Superman Returns came out.
Oh, great movie! Great movie. Ancient movie, but
ancient.
Have we ever considered the possibility
that black and white
that Superman Returns caused demisexuality? Has anyone
that's a theory.
These threads together?
Are you saying when Superman lifted a continent in that movie that he caused something?
He shifted everyone's sexuality.
By the way, I love how he can lift a continent in that movie, but like a plane, like stopping a plane in the air, like takes him all the way to the ground, and he's like struggling with it.
It's
hey, that's a great movie.
Whatever
Shut the fuck up.
The most dramatic dictates the action scene. Yep. Sounds right.
So I actually asked on my Instagram story for people to put assumptions on what demisexual is. So I'm going to go through those and answer them, and hopefully this will help. Okay, this one was a very, very big question. Don't all people need some kind of connection prior? Don't all people need some kind of connection prior to physical intimacy? I think a lot of people, when I describe what demisexual is.
Yeah, is that true? Don't a lot of people need an emotional connection prior to intimacy?
I mean, I would say that that's pretty much most people. That's sort of the underlying default to people having sex is that they have an emotional connection. Because otherwise, if you're just having emotionless, uninvolved sex, that sounds like something, I don't know, like a sociopath would do, like Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny.
I say we figure out which one of us is a slut. Tenny, is it true for you that you need an emotional connection with somebody before you have intimacy? Yes or no?
On the advice of my lawyers, I will decline to comment.
Yeah, well, confess.
Yeah, I'd say that's true for me, Cobb. I know that's true for you. Gabbles, would you just fuck anything that breathes?
I'm just going to refer you to my solicitor, Wandering Wojak.
Oh, no. Oh, text paragraph's coming in right now.
Wojak is typing.
Morals that you don't do one-night stands and stuff like that, but it's deeper than that. I cannot feel any sexual attraction to anyone until I have a strong emotional bond.
Does that sound like something that she's experiencing or something that she's trying to convince herself of?
It sounds like the latter, to be honest.
Yeah, it does to me too.
Sounds like something.
This is gonna come back to the sex question, the gender question, to be more specific.
It sounds like something she may have come into contact with, thought might have been cool, and then has been trying to get herself to internalize.
I think probably her disposition is totally real. I think this is, again, a feminine kind of disposition towards this whole thing. When we think of being sexually stimulated by someone else, we often think of, oh, we see them naked and we get excited, or we see them walking down the street and we get excited. Women are way less visually oriented in that way. It's not as often that we look at a guy and get immediately turned on. Whereas for men, it can very much be like that.
Yeah, true.
Yep,
And
true.
if we look, and we probably look in the comments after we're done watching, but a lot of the comments under this video are people saying, oh yeah, I feel the same way. I am only attracted to characters I read in stories and stuff. It's like, okay, these are women who are more stimulated by written storytelling than they are with visual cues. This is very typical. They're confusing this inability to be stimulated with images and their ability to read literature that feels more emotionally in depth, right? Because you're reading a story, you're emotionally invested. And they think, oh, it's the emotional investment that I really need to be turned on. It's like it's like a bad diagnosis here.
Do you think it's people that have just overly consumed kind of low resolution media where like it portrays love as like a Disney movie, like you're like just falling head over heels the second you see someone and little hearts are coming out and you're floating towards them, and they're like, well, I'm not feeling that. That's how love is. I must be different. It's
part that, but I think what's more revealing in this video is when she talks about her friends and her discomfort with their conversations. I think that's a bigger clue of what's really happening here. So when we get to that, I can point it out.
Oh, okay.
Don't have any sexual feelings at all. So that means I don't really get crushes on people until I've like known them for a long time. I don't see somebody and feel sexually aroused. I don't go on dates and then feel sexually aroused with new people. There's a lot of culture of people having sex on like the second or third date, or quite soon after dating, when not even really truly knowing the person, because people do feel sexual attraction to other humans, but I don't have that at all. Even celebrities, for example, for me personally, I do not have any sexual feelings towards any celebrity, and it absolutely astounded me when I found out that people do. Like, they have sexual feelings, they get turned on by celebrities by just seeing them and not even knowing them. I just thought that people just...
Yeah, with the celebrity thing, like I wonder what her conception of the feelings that the people she's describing are feeling. You kind of know get what I'm getting at.
Yeah, because I wonder if our women who say, "Oh, that guy, he's so hot. I'm so like, ugh." When they say that, what are they actually describing? Are they actually describing a physiological response in their body? Are they actually sexually excited, or are they just saying it because that's what's culturally expected when you see a hot guy and you want to express how much you like them?
Sounds like she's describing Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Well, there's also like, so what's the reason for that behavior where if you see someone and you just want to express to your friend or somebody just like, yeah, I would hot, I would totally bone them. Like what, like why is that a social pattern? What's that proving to someone?
I mean, in some sense, it's just bonding over a shared feeling. Like, hey, I noticed they're attractive. Do you notice they're attractive? And then you can gossip about it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's a bonding ritual.
I mean, for men, it's, I guess, how would I describe the difference between men and women in this regard? Women often will comment on a guy's appearance, but as we were saying in chat, often that turns into matchmaking behavior, where they start to say, oh, you and he should go out, and trying to arrange these relationships. And that's kind of what the social dynamic is. Whereas men are a little more direct. But I don't know. I'm not a man. How do you guys?
We're barely men, Kav. We're gay.
You talk about other dudes and how hot they are?
I do. Yeah, my husband and I are like, oh, would you? And we're like, yes, I would take him out to dinner.
And for a sensible meal, right?
For a sensibly priced meal, and then a quick trip home in a cab that I pay for. I'm not present.
So do you have a free pass then? Do you have like a
No, we don't
pass?
have a free pass. No.
Ah, I was going to criticize you over it. Damn it.
I knew you were. That's why I lied.
Fucker.
But yeah, I mean, for a guy thing to like go to another guy buddy that you're with and be like, yeah, I would totally. Yeah. It's kind of like show how like kind of macho and how full of virility you are and things like that, you know.
Danimal, did you ever do that to cover up?
You know, I'm evoking my Fifth Right Amendment.
Like, hey, that broad. Yeah, I'd do her. Yeah.
I'd touch your vagina.
Yeah, I would totally enter her.
Yeah, I would have very heterosexual sex. Yep.
Just picked, looked kind of good looking, and were like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But they weren't actually meaning it. But they do. They mean it.
No, they don't. Is she autistic? You think she's autistic?
Who knows?
Well,
I don't know. She seems to have trouble reading emotions, especially in other people. And that's typically a sign that somebody's got a bad case of the tisms.
She's kind of a hot autistic, I gotta say.
Kav. 4 homos and
women can say the other woman is hot. It's fine.
That's a little suspicious.
I'm sorry, I didn't know there was going to be lesbians on this podcast, so I'm leaving.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Come back up.
Kav, you packing a boxed lunch over there?
Listen, all women are lesbians until they are converted out of it by loving parents, and that's what happened to me. So we're fine.
This is getting worse. This is getting worse.
Okay.
Don't we have a
I
video?
don't feel that at all. I just like, oh, they're good looking, but I don't feel anything. Although I do want to know, some demisexual people have said when you've followed a celebrity for a long time, or when you've known a celebrity for a long time, even though if you don't actually technically know them, you can kind of develop sexual feelings because it feels like you know them. For me personally, that has never happened. And of course, one night...
We know what that's called.
What's that called, Go?
Parasocial relationships, buddy.
Go!
That's
And there's a lot of it.
You mean like the kind of relationship I have with 3H&aP?
Yes, exactly.
Oh no! Oh no!
They're not your real
That's
friends. Sorry to
No. What?
They're not.
But I got the Dakimakuras in my bed, the full body pillows.
Be right back. I gotta close out these Rule 34 tabs.
No, keep them open. Share with the class, Temmie.
Oh, sorry, I was just smelling my red shorts.
Stands don't happen. Dating is difficult because people do expect sex. So to answer that question, you do need some sort of connection to be physically attracted to people, but with demisexual people, it's a completely different kind of connection. Whereas these people who are saying, yeah, but it's just people with morals, or it's just people that don't hook up on the first date or have one night stands. The thing is,
I mean, there is kind of like a morality built around it, though. Like she's kind of presenting it like I physically cannot be aroused by anybody unless I have an emotional connection to it.
I guess this brings up.
But that's not entirely true.
Yeah, it brings up the question: can your morality system affect how your desire expresses?
Well, I mean, absolutely.
You can suppress certain feelings, or just you failed to ever register those feelings because you feel a moral aversion to it. So every time it even came close, you averted your eyes, right? And over time, it just builds up that way. That's kind of what drives me crazy about things like demisexual and asexual. Is these are not stable orientations. These are things that develop and change over the course of a person's life because you have different sexual experiences and you go through different stages of life, and you either encounter people sexually and that can change your level of desire, or you don't encounter people and that can affect your level of desire.
You know, I'm always curious just thinking about the biology behind it, because women tend to not sexually peak in their like highest sexual activity until their late 20s, early 30s, whereas men is around like 18. And just a lot of like people claiming demisexuality or things like that I've noticed that they tend to be far younger, like young women in their late teens, early 20s. So I just maybe that just hasn't quite kicked into hyperdrive like it's going to yet.
Yeah, it's possible. And I think if you're kind of person who grew up and you just never had early sexual experiences, it might be delayed, the time between you actually experiencing a real sexual desire.
Wait a minute, because we were dumping on kids watching porn in our porn episode, but you're saying if they don't watch porn, they're going to end up as lame wads like this?
I think it can affect.
Maybe we should be teaching kink to 5th graders.
I think it can affect it, right? But the difference is with porn, it's not real.
Right. Yeah.
with people who grow up on the internet and never touch anybody and are just in their room all day writing gay fan fiction, and they've never held hands. Yeah, it's a whole other kind of warping, and strangely enough, I think they're tied together actually. This sort of porn addiction and this high aversion can sometimes go together.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or at least they manifest in the sexes differently, right? Yeah, porn addicted men and sex averse females, and it doesn't fit together. It's not a good combination.
Well, it's with the porn addicted men. Sometimes they can become sex averse because they just don't get that same hit from it. You know.
So basically, touch grass or touch ass.
Touch something.
Yeah, touch grass and ass.
Touch anything.
Just
get out.
Hold hands.
Except for a keyboard.
Know what human touch feels like. Just a little bit, even.
Touch anything except your keyboard, your mouse, or your penis. Just those three are off limits.
Just go out in public and just randomly grab a person and hold their hands. Homeless, a 2-year-old at the park, wherever. Exactly. That's some Danimal advice.
Do not take Danimal advice.
Yeah, we cannot endorse Danimal's advice. We're not responsible for your actions if you take Danimal's advice.
Those people can feel sexual attraction to those people. Demisexual people just don't. We don't. That's the difference. Yeah, I also have another assumption saying I feel like this is a classification that doesn't need to exist. It's called knowing what you like. No, because I know what I like, but then I still won't feel sexually attracted to it, to the thing, to the person, to the thing.
I don't think she has a concept of what they mean when they say you just know what you like. Because there's definitely, I mean, is she telling me that she doesn't look for specific traits in a person?
Is she taking like literally as in contrast to any other possible meaning?
Here's what I think she's saying there. She's saying, I know what I like in a person, but just because I meet a person and they have those things doesn't mean I'm automatically turned on.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So to say,
which is normal.
They have all the things I like, but I still need to get to know them first before I develop sexual attraction. Which again, so I think
normal behavior. This is all normal.
Pretty standard or pretty close to standard, especially for a biological female. Like this is bonding chemicals, man.
To the person until we've had a strong emotional bond, and I mean a strong emotional bond. It's not just like friends. It has to be like a strong emotional connection for me personally. I'm gonna give Rain as an example. My current partner, we knew each other for a while.
Knowing how she thinks 2006 is a long time ago, what do you think a while is for her?
Few months?
Yeah, 3 months.
Couple of hours.
just before she recorded this video.
You know, back in the Ice Age known as 2008.
Before I even had any kind of feelings like that towards them. And we did go through a lot. We had to emotionally bond. An interesting story is that I was the one that made...
Can I just say, this poor girl, she needs to have more relationships. Because she made like a difference between like a friend and somebody who you were going to date. But you should never make that distinction because you want your partner to also be your friend. That's where you have the strongest relationships.
Yeah. Normally they're your friend first.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't really get how this just sounds like standard dating procedure.
Yeah, you date, you get to know them slowly over time, and as you emotionally bond with them, genuine feelings emerge. Like this is a story as old as humanity, really.
Yeah, and it's okay to be hesitant about not having sex when dating somebody for a while. That's perfectly fine. Because when sex is introduced to a relationship, the dynamic totally changes. And that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. So it's okay to wait and really get to know each other before you have sex. Like,
are you kink shaming?
I'm slut shaming. That's what I'm doing.
Slut shaming. Oh.
I want people to have healthier relationships.
Gabbles, defend your honor.
What? No, I agree. That's the best way to build a relationship. Is to become friends with someone. Like it's not a fling or like a one night stand or anything. If you want a relationship, you actually have to get to know the person.
And women are typically, and I don't know if this is true, But I think women are more typically serious about relationships where they want to put in the work to make them work. I think that's
the bonding is more serious for the woman. They have more to lose, really.
Yeah.
Do your taxes on the first date.
Yeah.
You know what we did on one of our first dates? We went to a Big Lebowski themed burlesque show.
Oh my goodness.
It was really amazing.
That's one way to send a date.
Well, one of many.
Made the first move because I realized that actually my feelings had changed only after knowing Rain for a very long time and then having this strong connection. The best way I could describe it is it was like this switch, but it was like somebody turning, you know, like one of those dim lights where you like put up the little knob when it goes slowly up like that. That's what it was like for me. I don't know if any other person who is watching this who identifies as demisexual agrees.
Everybody agrees with that. That's how you experience romantic feeling.
That is just how. That is. First off, is she trying to describe a light switch? Number
Yes.
2,
A dim switch where you slowly it lights up slowly.
Where you can change the lighting from dim to bright. I didn't know that was called that, but number 1. Number 2, this is just normal, perfectly normal human behavior. In fact, it would be abnormal if you didn't experience that at all.
Yeah, if you're just constantly immediately falling in love with everyone you meet. Boom, 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 boom.
That, or you're not having any kind of friendship feelings for anybody at all, and you're just treating them
immediately sexually aroused. Oh, that's hot. Hit it. Move on.
Yeah,
It's
again,
actually
like
kind of a pathology, and it's been recognized as a pathological behavior in a lot of societies, like just hopping from one partner to the next.
that's what we call the Dennis system. You demonstrate value, you engage physically, you nurture dependence, you neglect emotionally, you inspire hope, you separate entirely.
Amen.
That's really nice how you can actually remember that.
It's important.
Although you shouldn't try to re-dentist whoever you dentist, but because they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm just in it for the scraps.
But that's what it was like for me, but then it was like, and then all of a sudden the light was bright and I was like, whoa, here it is. And honestly, Rain made an amazing safe space for me to express that, and I made the first move and I asked if I could kiss them, and the rest was history. I feel like
What?
That's all falling in love. That's what that is.
But it's cute. It's kind of cute in its innocence because she doesn't understand what love is.
I think you're right in your presumption. She may actually be autistic,
or just very painfully naive. Maybe so much of what she's learned has been from a very hypersexual Hollywood content that has given her a very warped perspective on how these things go.
I mean,
in a movie, it's like you meet, they're hot, you bang. It's very fast.
Right. Like I said, I mean, she is a music artist. She has been in like major Hollywood productions, and she has like a series that she works. It's like seriously produced. Like it's pretty quality. So maybe she is just kind of involved with Hollywood and she doesn't quite understand how these things work. And yes, Tenny, I do agree. Gary Marshall did ruin a whole generation of women.
Don't forget to blame Julia Roberts and Meryl Streep as well, because like they also did basically romantic comedies from like the 80s onward ruined women's impression of romance, I think.
Oh, I actually wasn't gay enough for that reference.
You got to be American gay to get that.
I don't watch rom-coms. What the fuck?
I love them.
I have
people who are not
testicles.
I kind of like rom-coms. Don't tell anybody.
somebody said that demisexual doesn't like romance and stuff like that. I love romance. I'm the biggest romantic person out there. I can't imagine romance with people I'm not emotionally connected to, but only romance, not sexual attraction. Just
Wait. Okay.
How do you have romance?
Does she think romance happens with people who don't have any emotional bond? How does that even work?
This whole thing is just bass-ackwards.
Yeah, I wonder what she means by romance. Like what? Like what's her conception of romance?
Kind of gets into it. She's like, yeah, going on dates and cuddling and sort of bonding rituals. And I was like, yeah, if you want to be emotionally close to someone, that's what you do. I don't even understand how someone would say, oh, demisexuals don't like romance. And that's obviously all she envisions. It's kind of through that lens.
Yeah, that's their entire sexuality is basically romance. I mean, that's what bonding is.
Slow burn romance. That's sort of her trajectory when it comes to relationships. That's how she does it.
It's probably smart too.
Yeah, it's probably a great adaptation for not getting screwed over, to be honest. You only make that bond when you're safe, when you know for sure.
Especially for women who are, usually dating men.
Yeah, it's a
who
high
can
risk.
be violent, very high risk.
Being cute and cozy and going on cute dates and stuff, but no sexual things, just cute romance. Holding hands and going on adventures and stuff.
Whoa.
That's just
Going on
right.
adventures.
Oh,
Ew.
Completely
Holding
obscene.
hands? What
Completely
the fuck?
obscene.
Hey,
I'm gonna have to
Comp,
add
can you
a
bleep?
trigger warning.
Yeah, can you
I'll
bleep when she says hands? I mean,
Yeah.
that was really bad.
Oh,
And actually put like a black bar on her mouth. That's
yeah.
disgusting.
I'll do all that because I don't want to get marked on YouTube.
Perfect.
Sexual, but not 100% sure. How did you know you were? Honestly, from hearing the label, as soon as I heard the description, it was like a light bulb moment in my life. Okay, this is why I believe labels are incredibly important. I genuinely thought there was some.
Just want to reiterate, 2 years ago, she thought labels were very, very unimportant.
That's ancient history.
Oh, right. That was in the ancient
Yeah,
times.
come on,
In
that
the
was
before time.
2020,
In the
which is, like,
Mesozoic
forever
era.
ago.
It's the before time and the long, long ago,
Something wrong with me. I just didn't relate to any of my friends' conversations about dating or about sex. I was like, what is wrong with me? Am I just like not, do I have like a very low libido? Do I just not want sex? Am I
Cobb, you had some things to say about this part.
I did because, and she goes into it a little bit later where she talks about like the cis heteronormative thing and listening to her friends talk about dating and sex, and she just feels like there's something wrong with her. And I feel like it's backwards because her and other sort of asexual types, what they'll do is they'll blame the cis hetero patriarchy for their feeling bad about themselves. And I'm like, that's not who you should blame. It's the sexual liberation, like feminist types who normalized everyone being super horny or at least pretending to be super horny all the time. This is the shift in American culture has become very overtly sexual. The expectations around dating have become way more sexual. And it's all because of that era. It's not because like the evil Christians hate people who don't have sex. It's completely wrong. So they really don't seem to understand the shift in American culture and understand that maybe the reason they feel out of place is because they are a reflection of that older time in some sense. They are feeling things that we used to recognize as standard that are now being sort of pushed out for the sake of sexual freedom.
Do you believe that old notion that like, oh, well, society is what keeps people in check? Because otherwise, naturally, they'd just be crazy horn dogs that are going off and having sex with everything that moves.
I don't. I think there's a reason we developed monogamy in so many cultures. I think there's a reason women are more protective of themselves. I think two different breeding strategies on the male and female side. And even on the male side, I think there's an upper limit to what's reasonable for them. I think they have a bit of selection as well.
Yeah, that's kind of my just feelings of living life. just experiencing people and how people work in the world, and that's what it seems to be. That seems to be the default, is that people are looking for emotional relationships, not 1,000 partners. That seems to be the default mode.
And if we even look at the averages in the United States of how many sexual partners people have, it's actually quite low. We get a really warped perception of what's normal in terms of quote unquote body count from those upper limit people who talk about it all the time.
Mostly gay men.
Yeah. And, the top 1% of men who talk about all the girls they smash, it's like most people are not in that world. Most people have a lifetime of somewhere between 3 to 4 sexual partners. So even watching television or movies again, right, we get this sense that having a new sexual partner every couple weeks is the norm. And it's really not. I don't think humans are really wired that way. I don't believe, like Vosh does, that we're just a bunch of horn dogs innately.
I mean, it's just easier too with like monogamy. Like, wouldn't you rather just one person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way
Having to
easier.
deal with so many people is just like, ugh, no, spare me.
I mean,
We're
even in
cooperative species. We're
yeah, and
wired to cooperate.
even in societies where polygamy has no stigma around it, it's just a normal thing. Like most of the relationships are still monogamous. Like there's not other partners involved.
Yep. Or you'll have like one guy has a lot of wives and all the other guys have one wife or none. You know, it was sort of a hierarchy depending on how many wives you had.
Yeah.
Just imagine the nagging. Ugh.
Am I asexual? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I need to go see somebody about this or try and figure this out, like get myself out there and force myself to have sex with people, which no, bad, don't do that if you don't want to do that. But I got to that place in my mind and I've had encounters with people who have wanted to have sex with me and we've not known each other that well. And I don't feel it at all, and it's become a dangerous situation for me. After all of those,
This is just really sad.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like she's not with the best people in the world.
Yeah, and this is something that I've complained about modern dating culture is we've really robbed women of good language for saying no, because we've trained girls and young women to think that having sex on the first date is something that should be expectable. It's something that is normal. And so when they find themselves in that situation, they want to say no, but they also want to capitulate. They want to go along with cultural expectations that are in their head. Whereas before, there's a very rigid line, like, hey, Buster, get your hands off me.
Yeah, there used to have to be like a courting ritual and you know, before you even saw her ankle.
You would slap a guy. You would absolutely not put up with certain kinds of behavior because there's a line. This is it. Like, you can't cross this line with me. And now I feel like those boundaries are very fuzzy because we've made sex kind of a transactional state. It's really weird. Like, it's all about consent, quote unquote, and it's not about actual emotional engagement.
But it's also actually like probably just a good strategy overall to just not fuck on the first date because then you're kind of forcing the guy to get to know you. So you're kind of manipulating him into liking you, I guess.
You're drawing him in. You're getting him invested.
Yeah.
I think that in general, modern dating culture puts way too much emphasis on sex, on hitting it, tapping it, on
blasting puss,
on sort of almost commoditizing our desires. And that's not to say that it's unique to our time, because let's face it, basic human desires have been things that you could hypothetically sell or market back to people basically since people began doing that kind of thing. But I think with the internet and with how many dating apps and websites there are, there's just so much commercialization and so much commodification of these things that we sort of treat it very shallowly. We don't really consider it as whether we want to actually do these things. We just feel like, hey, it's there, let's do it, whatever. It's very treated very casually, very shallowly, when in reality, for a healthy relationship to work, you need to actually consciously think deeply about what you're getting yourself into, whom you're investing your time and resources with. And I think that that's perhaps an advantage that old school courtship had over contemporary dating practices.
So basically, like, this is what your relationships look like on materialism.
Yeah, basically, it's incredibly materialistic.
The marketplace.
Capitalism.
And I want to square a circle because I'm thinking this through, and I know I said first that most people have, like 3 to 4 partners. Most people have fewer partners than we realize. And at the same time, the expectation for sleeping on the first date is very much high. And I realize that some people might see those as contradictions. But the reality is, if we think about the distribution of who's having sex, it's going to be the top 1% of males are going to get all the women. And the women, meanwhile, are going to they have to hyper compete for the attention of those small group of males. So while women are not getting that much, and a lot of men are getting nothing, there's like a small subset of men who are getting a lot of action. And this whole thing is very dysfunctional for pretty much everybody. The only people who really get rewarded with this arrangement are those like 6-figure salary, handsome, 9 out of 10 looking guys at the top who are able to have multiple sexual partners with basically no repercussions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I was thinking about how you were talking earlier about the difference between male sexuality and female sexuality. And I think that's really typified, that difference in looking at lesbian relationships versus like gay male relationships and kind of the way that sexual dynamic works between the groups. And it's just so apparent what the different patterns are.
I told you the joke that I learned from Andrew Sullivan.
Oh, what was that?
What do lesbians bring on the second date?
What?
A U-Haul. What do gay men bring on the second date?
Oh, what do they bring?
What second date?
But it's true.
It's true.
Andrew Sullivan's gay, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's okay. We can keep this in the episode.
Exactly.
God, Gabs, that Columbo picture you posted is so bad. I thought we weren't going to make fun of her glass eye.
Hey.
Don't.
I will say it's
thumbnail,
not as off-putting as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known people with glass eyes before. You know, one of my friends has a glass eye.
I'm trying to restrain myself.
I know you
with
are.
The Columbo gender video.
Just one more thing.
#gender, huh? See, my wife got a cousin Lou, and she tells me Lou don't have one. So I look into it, because that sort of thing fascinates me. And you know, turns out the whole thing's sort of a racket. We just made this cockamamie thing up.
Those situations I've always been like, something is wrong with my brain. And then when I found this description online and I saw the description, it was like an aha. I could not believe that other people experienced this.
That's so sad that she thought something was wrong with her brain.
Yeah, what kind of friends did she have who were telling her that there was something wrong with her because she didn't want to engage in the same behavior?
I'm not sure the friends told her that. I think she...
Maybe she just inferred it?
Yeah, I've said that she might be autistic semi-seriously, but now I'm not. I'm saying it seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you could just go online and say, hey, is it normal not to want to sleep on the first date? And
yeah, but then you get a bunch of like Christian websites. Nobody wants that.
Go on Reddit and they'll be like, no, you're just, come on, put out.
You're just a prude, Ice Queen.
Could not believe that I wasn't alone in this, that there wasn't something wrong with me, that actually people do have this. It's a genuine thing that other humans on this planet have, not just me.
It's just the way she says that has this, like she's afflicted with something.
Yeah.
I think she even says that like I need to be fixed or something like that later in this video.
Honestly, I genuinely believe if I didn't know what demisexual was to this day, at my age, I'd be very depressed. I wouldn't be in a good place at all. And it's so good.
At her age? How?
I know.
How is she ancient?
19, probably 20. A little baby.
What's her name? I'm gonna Google her and get her age.
Ellison. Lindsay
Oh, it's
Ellison.
Kelsey Ellison.
Kelsey Ellison. I'm sorry. Lindsay
Kelsey
Ellis?
Grammer. Gotcha.
Oh no, guys! It's Lindsay Ellis's evil twin sister or opposite twin sister. Maybe she's the good one. And Lindsay Ellis is the evil one.
I mean, it's pretty clear that Lindsay Ellis is the evil one.
Yeah.
Looks like she was born in 1992.
The heck?
So she's almost 30.
Oh wow!
If not already.
Wow. Okay. I have questions now.
Yeah, delayed development.
Is that what
you're thinking?
Low maturity.
You know what? That's another kind of interesting thing to broach because now that we know that she's not 20. Yeah, low. Yeah, the kind of lack of late.
And then she refers to something that happened in 2008 as like a long time ago. That's so weird.
Yeah, that's like probably when she graduated high school. But yeah, now that we know that she's, older. Yeah, that's another interesting aspect of this. It's kind of late maturity or incomplete maturity emotionally. Yeah. I think that's a thing you see a lot nowadays.
Could be, yeah.
To who I am and what I am. So I know what's up and I know what's going to happen. I can tell people this label and show, look, this is me, this exists. And some people don't believe me, but some people are like, oh, okay. It creates a safe space for who I am. And that's why, yes, I think labels are incredibly important, especially for the LGBTQ community. But again, labels sometimes limit people, but sometimes labels save people. It's all up to the individual person themselves if they want to use a label or not.
Hashtag labels saved my life.
I mean, you don't need the label to tell you that it's fine.
To be fair, the label that said "Do not eat the silica packet" saved my life probably many times. Because man, I want to eat that thing. I want to eat it so bad.
It's just fine. Just eat them.
I mean, to some degree, labels create a new normative. They describe things that are normalized just by nature of labeling them in some sense, because you're grouping them with other human experiences into one thing. I don't know, various individuals who experience this kind of slow burn preference, like this is how they experience romance. I don't feel like you can group all those experiences into one thing and say, that's it, that's demisexuality. I think that's just too complex.
Some people just use labels as guidelines to just kind of check in with themselves and be like, oh yeah, that exists, I am part of that, but also I'm part of this, I'm part of that. It just helps you realize that these things exist, and you don't have to just stick to one if you don't fully feel like you're completely in that label. Or you can
See, we mentioned earlier about just going out and touching grass and interacting with people. This is like what you do when you don't interact with people, is you just find all these... Because the way that you would figure out that things are normal, that you feel normal, or that other people like you exist, is by going out and experiencing people.
Yeah, and talking to them about how they feel, trying to understand their feeling. You know, the moment where she says, yeah, and you just kind of look at each part of yourself, and I'm part of this, and I'm part of this, and I'm part of this. It really does strike me as autistic sounding.
I know.
I'm starting to come around on this autistic thing, because I can just picture a hyper OCD, like autistic spectrum person laying out all their cards and be like, okay, I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and it's all in place. Okay, I'm good. I'm now zen because I've sorted out everything. Like, that's very, very spectrum.
Yeah, not a lot of people operate like that.
Most people just kind of flow. They just live, and they don't worry about that stuff too much.
Completely disregard together. But for me, labels really, really, really helped. Okay, one of the questions that I got was a little bit personal. So family members, if you're watching this, I am grown. Let's just talk about this. Somebody asked, well, do I...
Carve, close your ears. Just
okay.
Put the earplugs in.
I'll cover my ears and I'll hum. I can't
get turned on by myself. Do I masturbate? So for me, personally, yeah, I do. But I don't... Okay, this sounds really, really egotistical, right? I do not need anything to turn me on except myself.
She's right. That does sound egotistical. It also just sounds fucking weird. I mean, it's how can you, the subject, become the object of your own desire? That's just strange.
What, are we getting into AGP? What?
Well, I mean, I don't, you know, when you're doing the deed, and we might have missed it a little bit, but she's talking about masturbating. But when
I can't hear you.
when you're doing the deed, I mean, I don't know what you guys imagine, but you usually imagine yourself in that situation if you're watching pornography, or if you're just using your imagination, you're thinking about things that, you know, maybe experiences you had in the past that were really, you know, stimulating, things like that. You know, I think that's pretty normal behavior for somebody who's self-loving.
Wasn't there like a Greek god that fell in love with his own reflection?
Narcissus.
That's Narcissus.
Narcissus, thank you.
Not a god, he was just a really handsome young man.
Yes. Super
handsome. Am I a narcissist?
Very handsome, apparently.
Are you a narcissist? I don't know. I think probably there are people who can just masturbate without external stimulation. They just know how to do it.
Yeah, but do you masturbate thinking about yourself?
I personally think about Jesus and then I stop.
Why stop?
I think about feet. I don't think about feet. Please don't cut that out, Kav.
Okay.
Get him off the show.
I think about each of you.
My tools. I still get horny, but just for myself and not anybody else. I'm sure everybody understands this in some aspect. I don't watch porn. Porn has never ever turned me on at all. It's interesting to watch. It's fun to watch, but it doesn't turn me on. I can just do it and it happens.
But that's normal female operating procedure, though.
Yeah, have you ever seen like women-oriented porn, Gambles? Have you ever like clicked that tab and just been curious what that is?
No, I actually haven't. I just imagine it's really fucking boring.
Yeah, it really is. It's a lot of romance and like a lot of foreplay, hugging, kissing, rolling around, giggling. Yeah, it's very boring. But that's the tab that's geared towards women's interests. So this sounds like it's just pretty in line.
So
you
it's
know,
not just like
Yeah.
a direct link to a audio recording of Twilight.
That's why I was kind of shocked with their porno video where they were talking about how like something like over like 80% of women say that they watch porn regularly. And I'm like, I don't know if that's entirely true. Depends on the porn, I guess.
Yeah, it would have
Define
to depend
porn.
on the porn. I mean, I know porn consumption around women typically is written. So they'll buy those romance novels or write that fanfic, and that's what they get off to, but not so much the visual stuff. But
It's
maybe
like
that's
a
changing.
Lord-
Maybe it's becoming normalized and kind of expected. So they're getting more contact with it.
Isn't it like Lord Cockgirth was a MD, a lord of the land in Scotland, and also a pirate, and also a womanizer. But now I can tame him.
That's right.
Oh,
And he's
so
a
hot.
vampire. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
And a werewolf. What?
what? Crazy.
They're going to tie the knot more ways than one.
This question comes up a lot as well, and I feel like this is going to cause a little bit of a debate. Okay. Demisexuality isn't part of the LGBTQ community. So, straight, cis people can be demisexual, and straight, cis people are usually not part of the LGBTQ community. Now, I understand from some aspect that, yeah, that is not part of the LGBTQ community because they're straight. And I understand that people want safe spaces away from cis, het people. However,
I've never felt the need to have a safe space away from cis het people. How about you guys?
No, not really. No.
Not particularly, no.
Are we that scary that the gays are?
I mean, I think like there's like this seems like an outsider perspective of like what gay people do in their normal life, because like the reason that you go to a gay bar or things like that, I know a lot of people say like, well, it's about community, but that's usually the older gay crowd who were driven out of their communities or away from their families, or they really couldn't kind of participate in society fully, and that's really changed over the past 20 years. And nowadays, kind of being gay in America is just living in your community and not really, being driven away from it and participating in your community fully. Like that's kind of why gay bars and everything is going away. So this conception that LGBTQIA plus people need a safe space away from cis heteronormativity, like that just doesn't ring true anymore. It's like they're imagining the world is still the 1970s.
I don't know about you guys, but I mainly go to gay bars for free drinks.
You're that cute, huh? You get free drinks.
I don't think I would get cute free drinks, sadly.
I've even gotten free drinks from like 40-year-old women. I'm like, why?
Oh, nice.
Why are you barking up this tree? This is
because they want you to be their little gay boy accessory.
Hey,
No. They are collecting you for an accessory. That's what
Your makeup is
older
on
women
point.
are doing.
Have this beer.
asexual people usually are generally considered part of the LGBTQ plus community, even though straight people can be asexual. Somebody had a very interesting comment on the Gay Times post about
straight people can be asexual. Well, now we're getting into sexception here, where suddenly we're going to say lesbians can be men and asexuals can be straight, and what else?
I mean, the whole gender ideology and queer ideology is done away with. The concept of homosexuality anyway. Like it's like it doesn't even exist anymore in those ideologies.
Shouldn't like asexual people not even be straight or gay?
Correct.
They should be asexual.
But see,
don't have that.
Asexual can mean basically anything now. You can be asexual and enjoy sex and have it frequently, but you're still asexual. This is real.
You
So
can
we
even
all
be a
think-
porn star and be
You can
asexual.
be a porn star and say that you're asexual. Like, there's no actual definition to any of these. They can mean whatever.
Words can mean quite literally whatever you want them to mean.
I mean, they've invented terms to try to define these shades so that you'll have like gray sexual. Gray ace is the term to say like, okay, well, you're asexual, but you're not completely asexual. Like you still sometimes want to have sex or whatever. Yeah, it's all very muddled and it's not a clear distinction at all.
asexual being part of the queer community. I don't think asexual people are claiming to receive the same kind of institutionalized discrimination from like trans people, gay, lesbian, bisexual people, but they do experience oppression. We live in a cis heteronormative society that pushes sex and sexual attraction, notably heterosexual.
Thank you, sexual liberation.
Yeah, it's those those wacky tradcon Christians are really pushing this you gotta have sex all the time notion, right? They've never had institutions for people who don't want to have sex. Nope, that never happened.
Sexual attraction. Asexual people are highly likely to experience corrective and sexual assault. Asexual people are affected by the narrative that if they do not want sex, they are unlovable. Asexual people are dismissed over and over and over again. A label just makes it easier to find others like you and put words to an experience that not everyone has.
Is she seriously making the claim that like there's like a culture around doing corrective rape to people who are asexual? I mean, that's I guess she's kind of endorsing that message because this weirdo fucking said that.
Yeah, just kind of claiming this. I have no idea what that's about. I've never heard of this. I don't know. Maybe women.
Yeah, women being pressured into sex. Is that what they're
sex? Maybe.
The only instances I've heard of corrective rape have occurred in African countries towards women who are lesbian.
Yeah,
right. This isn't like a regular thing that happens in the United States. Let's just say that this is not an institutional problem. It's if this has ever happened, it's got to be extremely rare.
Are you saying that's not a branch of the CDC?
The corrective rape branch.
I mean, I will say, like, didn't doctors used to prescribe dildos to women who were feeling "quote unquote" hysteria back in like the 1800s?
And you know, it probably worked.
It probably did.
Most definitely. I'm feeling kind of hysterical right now.
Oh God! Turn your cam off before you do that. Turn it off. Turn it off.
It helps yourself. What is the point in restricting the queer community and dictating what is or isn't queer? What is the benefit in dismissing these experiences as a whole? So I think what the person is getting there at is on the general.
Why do we draw the line here? Why can't we just not draw the line here? And on it goes. They're addicted to not having boundaries and not having definitions and not having lines drawn to say you cannot be this and this. Like they just can't do it.
Yeah, where does that notion come from that every single boundary is a oppressive restriction?
Construction?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's like part of the social constructionism theory. I mean, queer theory is at the root of all of it. They want to queer everything. That's the goal, that everything will be queer.
And you know what? I know that we're like, 2 hours into this episode, but we should probably define queer just a little bit.
Sure. You want to swing that?
Sure, I could. I mean, it's just basic. It's super basic. Queer just means anything that isn't cis or heteronormative. That's basically it. That's all it is. And based on those specific terms, cis, heteronormative, so that, it's using that jargon from that ideology to define queer, whatever cis heteronormativity means. I mean, they can define it as anything they want.
It sounds like nothing is actually cis heteronormative.
Yeah, it sure does, doesn't it?
Because any deviation whatsoever can be construed as queer. So I don't know.
The whole of society, asexual isn't normal. It is not the norm, and we do not usually recognize it. So asexual, in my opinion, is queer. Queer to me means anything that is not within the realms of societally normal things. Now, demisexual is part of the asexual spectrum. Now, if asexuality is considered queer...
Here, so you get asexuality spectrum. You got asexual, demisexual, gray sexual, and if you look around, I'm sure you will find a whole host of intermediate or shades on all of this. It's very bizarre just how specific they need things to be in order to understand themselves.
Like I said, it really feels like that they just don't interact with people other than online. And I think that's just a mark of this, although I say this generation, meaning Gen Z, but she's not Gen Z. She's much older.
Yep. And for the record, all these flags, you will be seeing them in your children's classrooms. If not now, very soon.
Goo.
Let's just, come on, LGBT was a mistake. Let's just go back.
Go back.
So is demisexual, because demisexual is literally part of the asexual umbrella. In my opinion, demisexual does fall under queer, because it isn't societal norm. It isn't just having preferences. It isn't just being picky. It isn't just having... It's...
No, but I'm sorry. Just having sex with a corpse is not LGBT just because it's abnormal. That's fucking weird. And
why are you drawing lines, man?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to draw lines?
Why are you trying to exclude people?
And where a felony is?
Inclusive. Come on. Say it with us. Inclusivity.
I'm getting really fucking triggered.
It's more than that. It's literally you cannot physically feel it at all unless you have a strong emotional bond. And even then, sometimes you don't feel sexually attracted to somebody because then you still have preferences. In my opinion, I think demisexuality is part of the LGBTQ community, and somebody who is straight but is still demisexual, I welcome them. I welcome them because they still have to face discrimination.
Discrimination?
Like from where?
From who?
Who's not getting a job? You go into the interview and they're like, hey, would you have sex on a first date? And you're like, nah, man, I don't do that. Like, get out. Get out.
And also she, like, as someone who is straight, yeah, why?
Straight people want in the gay club. This goes back to Danimal's question. Why straights want to be gay?
Yeah. Well, wait, did she say she's straight?
I don't think she...
Yeah, didn't she?
I don't know. Well,
I don't...
No, she's referring to a straight person who is demisexual should be included. She's speaking in the second person.
Okay.
But yeah, why do straights want in the gay club so bad?
Because it's cool.
Is it though? Is it really cool? Is it cool nowadays?
It's really easy to get rid of your oppressive class status. Your oppressor class status, I should say.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. Are
you a dirty cishet who's pressing everybody? Or are you going to hop over and be like, actually, I'm demisexual, which makes me queer, which means you should include me in the LGBTQ community. I'm going to come to all your meetings and I'm going to gum up every meeting with my complaints about how people expect me to have sex with them. How annoyed are these gays going to be?
It's dumbass straight women coming in here and gentrifying this shit, and it's really annoying. It's like they're basically, so there's a phenomenon of like right straight women who hang out with,
we can't say that on YouTube.
Bleep that.
Can't say that on YouTube. Too hot for YouTube.
Say F word hags.
F word hags, or straight women who cling to gay men like ticks clinging to a wild animal as like my gay friend. It's annoying, and I think this is just another way of going about doing that. Like, these straight women are trying to find some kind of support group for God knows what reason, and they latch on to LGBT spaces.
Oh yeah, we've had first-hand experience with that. Is there anything more alluring to a woman than a gay couple?
I mean, that's why Will and Grace was so popular.
It's true. So we've definitely had like weird women wanting to like cling on to us. It's like be our friends, like, and really force it. I'm like, oh no.
Danimal, I apologized already. You don't need to bring it up on screen.
It's basically sort of like gentrifying the gays in a sense, where it's like we have this community for us of things that we have in common, whether, you know, sexually or socially or culturally, and then these outsiders come in and gum it up and snafu it, and then it's completely messed up. You took something, you come in, you take something that's perfectly fine, and you screw it up for everybody else. And it's like, go away. We do not want you here. Go be stupid and annoying somewhere else. Women. Thank you.
I mean, it's a little much, Tenny.
I genuinely like.
Gabbles has some internal rage. Gabbles.
Yeah. I'm smiling, but I am very fucking furious.
Oh, okay. All incredibly inside jokes aside, is this like because heterosexual men like lesbian porn, right?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't see the point. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Do you think that maybe like the kind of like the same thing? Like they're attracted to being there or something?
I guess it's just, I've always thought of it like man sees woman, man sees two women, and it makes it hotter. So I guess the inverse happens for women. I mean,
yeah, maybe. I think
a lot of they
like men,
right? A lot of women who write like yaoi doujins and like fan fiction happen to be like lesbian or bisexual. Like a lot of the mangaka who wrote that started writing those in that genre back in the 70s were not heteros.
I think Kav was hitting on something earlier where it's about the romance and they like men being romantic. And when it's two men being romantic to each other, that's like, oh, an overload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
You can
I think
kind of
that's
project
Though I
that.
will say it's men being romantic in a very womanish way a lot of the time, in a way that
Well,
women
of course,
idealize.
because it's appealing
It's
to the woman, the
and
woman
it's
reader.
it's basically a rom-com but with like just dudes, and that's just not how. That's not what anyone's like. That's not what people are like. That's not how that happens. Women, stop getting your ideas about how romance works from fucking Gary Marshall. Like,
Well, we kind of got away. We kind of got away from the thread though, because the thread was why do they want to be a part of the LGBT whatever?
I think it's just for the support group. They see it as a support group and as a way to be different. Like, these are the same people who, like, in the 2000s would have been wearing like emo or goth or like alternative, listening to alternative music as a way of like standing out from what they see as, normal. I also think a lot of it is just really bourgeois in nature. Like, it's like, oh, I'm middle class and my life is boring, so I'm going to try and be like different.
Well, gay culture is very bourgeois, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least
it
in
is,
the
yeah.
at least in the United States, to an extent.
Yeah, I know. There is that web comic you showed me, Danimal, the Ojoy sex toy.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
And there was the one comic about the girl who wanted to be friends with the gay kids at school, but she never felt like queer enough. So she was really insecure about it, but she eventually became friends with them because they were so cool and they were so inclusive and they were so like welcoming, friendly, and it was with time and effort and strenuous self-introspection that she realized she's a lesbian. It's just like, it's really strange.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Really strange how fiercely a person can want to be part of a group, and then with a lot of work, they can convince themselves, oh, actually, I really do belong here. I just have to dig hard enough and deep enough. Like, that doesn't seem natural. That doesn't seem...
It's not organic.
It's not organic at all.
It's not real. It's not real. It's just basically gaslighting yourself into agreeing with a position that you sort of arrive at.
Because I think almost anyone, if you do enough digging, you can find some small sliver of something to cling to and turn into something. Because there's so much variation within every individual that you can do that. So it's just a matter of how deep do you want to go.
They still have to face against societal norms. They still have that whole experience in their life where they've had to try and figure out what is wrong with them, which is very similar to anybody else in the LGBTQ community, of course on a different scale and of course on a different level. A lot of it
people on the LGBT community have to find out what's wrong with them.
What?
You bitch.
To be charitable.
I know.
To be
I was just being angry.
You know, obviously, if you're growing up homosexual, you're gonna think, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah, I thought there was something.
I
wrong
think
with
that's
me.
what she's saying.
Yeah,
got some words that I'm not gonna say, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean there's a grain of truth to that, of feeling like that you have to find what's wrong with you when you're kind of coming to terms with it, because like we were talking about how that one person in the Ojoy sex toy kind of inorganically came to their orientation. I mean I think Tenny, DUI, and Gabbles kind of organically came to ours and realized that, and I kind of fought it. I don't know if you did, Tenny. I don't think you did.
I didn't really fight it per se. Like, I didn't try to convince myself that I was straight. There were other things going on in my life that were, like, to me, a little more important than that personal family history stuff that I don't want to divulge. But yeah, it sort of took a slight backseat. If I just say it, if I had to,
Asexual people are sent to corrective therapy, sexual therapy in some cases, to try and fix them.
Yeah, because you know why?
Doesn't that sound
Because sometimes asexuality is actually a symptom of a fairly severe health problem. Sometimes women need to get that diagnosed and taken care of.
Yeah, especially if it's sudden. If you have a sudden drop of libido, that's usually a sign that you might have cancer or something.
Yeah, I've heard about like brain tumors causing asexuality, like suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, things can happen, and so generally you wanna talk to your doctor about it, and especially if you have partner or spouse. Like, you want to see if that's something you can get help for.
Yeah,
I love that I love this idea of like women be like, I'm asexual, ooh woo. Turns out, no, you just have like breast cancer.
Oh dear.
Oh my god.
Like, oh.
No, it just turns out you're dying. Oh.
It just turns out you're like,
Oh.
it's like horribly metastasized. It's like, oh.
You don't have LGBT, you have 3 months.
Oh no.
No, we're on cancer jokes.
Yeah, they never get old. Much like cancer patients.
Oh, stop. No.
Like conversion therapy for queer people.
Yeah, they always do this.
And I
no matter
understand
what.
that some people
It's isn't this like conversion therapy for queer people? It's like, babe, no. Some things need therapy. If
Yeah,
you
it's
have severe gender dysphoria, that needs therapy. If you don't have any sexual desire, that may need therapy. This is okay. You can go to therapy for things, and it's not evil.
Is this podcast conversion therapy?
Is this the conversion therapy podcast?
I am feeling
Future
straighter.
reference.
It's working. I mean, what?
Oh god.
people in the LGBTQ community don't want those people, the straight demisexual people, in their spaces. But a community isn't a community. It's not just a one-headed mindset. There's different people within a community, so of course people are going to have different opinions. I also have to say, within the LGBTQ plus community, I have had to have more conversations about trying to explain how demisexuality is valid than my conversations with any straight person.
Yeah, because we don't fucking get it.
I like
'Cause
the
it's
dynamic
horseshit.
too.
It's almost like if you describe demisexuality to a straight person, they'll just be like, "Oh, that makes sense," because that's how everybody else experiences.
Yeah, they read it as normal,
Romance.
and then you
Like,
explain it to
like-
gay people, like, and this is why I'm queer, just like you. They're gonna be
It's
like, screw you. It's not the same.
This is why, in the words of the great, our Lord and Savior, Future, she belonged to the streets.
So, like, if you're demisexual, does that give you, like, death sentence in Saudi Arabia?
Possibly. Hmm.
Oh, will you be forced to get a sex change operation if you are demisexual in Iran? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that being demisexual was punishable by execution in 8 countries in 2022. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you know how much the Islam religion is against, forming a relationship with your partner and not having sexual relations very early on.
Yeah, they hate that.
Yeah, you know.
Really aggressively progressive, actually.
Yeah, it's
They're
shockingly.
like, what? You didn't have sex on the first date? Execution.
Inshallah.
About being bisexual, and I honestly do not appreciate it. I want it to stop. I want people in the community to be open and accept.
Then get out of the community.
Can we do a
Get out.
screenshot of being bisexual? I wanted to stop.
Get the fuck out of this community. You're not part of it categorically. I'm sorry.
Well, didn't she say she was bisexual?
Did she?
No.
Yeah, she said she's bisexual, I think.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
You
Tenny, calm down.
To let her in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't really care. Honestly, I don't give a single fuck about the LGBTQIA plus community because I've always held the contention that's not a fucking community. It's a political label. I'm sorry. There's not a bar where all the LGBTQIA pluses go and hang out. It's a gay man bar. It's a lesbian bar.
A man bar.
A man bar. It's not. There's not like a perfect rainbow culture where we all hold hands and run together in the park. We pretty much keep to our own.
It's a little place called the Manhole.
Yeah, it's not a fucking community.
Ask for Sleazy Dan. They'll know who you're talking to.
No one tell
Wait,
Animal
no,
he was
no.
left out.
I didn't mean to say Sleazy Dan. Damn it. Ugh. My mind was trying to say Steely Dan, like the thing from Naked Lunch, but...
Or the Fantastic Band from the 70s. It's Walter Becker and Donald Fagen.
That too, but ignore me.
Accepting and to be educated, and a lot of people are. It is just still the minority of people in the LGBTQ community. But if you are that
We're in the
person
minority.
that is saying, "Oh, no more labels. Oh, we have too many things to describe things. This is not needed." At some point in history, Somebody also said that about your label. And again, we're still evolving.
I don't
Did they?
think that's
Did
true. They had
did they,
terms
though?
for
That's-
homosexuality in the ancient scriptures where they said anyone who commits this gets stoned.
Yeah,
This is definitely something that was labeled.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
demisexuality, right?
That's right. Any demisexual will be stoned.
kind of strange way to put it, but I mean, technically, the word homosexuality wasn't really coined in like the last 2 decades of the 19th century. But
Well, yeah, before that it was sodomites.
yes,
We've not stopped. It doesn't just stop in one place. So that's my opinion. I'm going to stand by it, and I know people are going to disagree, but it's how I truly, genuinely feel at this moment in time, truly within my heart. Anyway, I do feel like I kind of just scratched the surface a little bit with this, so if you have any questions about this at all, please put them in the comments. I might even make a part 2 if I feel like I have missed like a big part of this. And I just want to say, however,
Do we have to say the thing, don't be mean to this person?
I
Do
feel
we-
like
Why? What do you want to do?
Oh.
Go ahead, be mean. What do you want to be
No,
mean about?
I
big
want
jerk.
to do it. No, like, don't get into our comment section because we made a whole video about it. I mean, I might leave a comment on one of
Oh,
my
no.
burner users.
No, don't leave any comments
Fucking
under the
idiot.
channel.
We are going to look at the comments. Oh, there's some good comments in there.
Yeah, I
boy.
think this might be a good time to do it because I don't think that there's much else to this video.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
think
she
she
just say
kinda
goodbye?
closes out
Yeah.
and talks a little bit about our personal projects. So let's go to the video.
Oh boy,
Uh,
who wants to read? Are we doing like an Amazon's type reading here?
How about this one? This one by Merope Durwood.
All right, click the read more so we can get the full. A comment by Merope Durwood. I'm demisexual, but not demi-romantic. So I can have a really huge crush on someone, but not even want to kiss them. I just want to be around them all the time. I have that thing with celebrities you talked about, though. If a celeb is looking good, I'm usually like, whatever, never mind. But if I follow them long enough and know more about them, it does feel like I know them, and then I can develop romantic and, so far, only in one case, sexual feelings.
that's it.
Interesting.
So that first paragraph, they're just describing having a friend.
This
Yes.
is straight up just friendship.
This is the poly-romantic platonic quad.
These are the kinds of people who would say Sam and Frodo are gay in Lord of the Rings. Like, shut the fuck
Yes.
up.
Here, how about I'm bi and ace. So regardless, I'm part of the LGBTQIA+. They'll both get hate in by the community, and I do believe that ace and demi, basically everyone who falls under the umbrella, belongs in the community. Yes, new labels are formed every day, but that's because someone is finding themselves and have to put a word on their feelings that wasn't there before.
Amy. I was arguing with a couple of gay men. I believe they were both gay men. At least one identified as such. On Reddit earlier, that demisexuality is a valid sexuality. They weren't so adamant that it's just... they were so adamant that it's just normal human sexuality, culturally acceptable sexuality, and that demisexuals don't face prejudice and discrimination like they, gay men, do so. Therefore, it doesn't belong in the community. That demisexuality is about preference, and we're just straight people who want to sound trendy and special.
Okay.
Those guys knew exactly what they were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you point out the countries that still punish people for being demisexual?
San
Oh,
Francisco.
I'm sorry.
From
Oh, I'm sorry.
America.
Oh, is that? Oh, there's none? There are none? Zero? Zip? Not a bupkis? Oh.
I'm pretty sure heterosexuality is punished in California.
Oh, here
Yeah.
we go. We got Bella in the house.
Okay, this might sound like a silly question, but could it somehow also relate to people who might find themselves adoring fictional characters they get to know in depth, for example, in a book, where we see the characters' growth and their thoughts? Question mark. Maybe that it's a different kind of sexuality or a whole different topic altogether, but if someone struggles to find anyone in real life that they do trust or are genuinely attracted to, but might feel affection or even attraction to a character they know too much about, but who's also completely fictional? Question mark. I do not know if anyone will see this comment or makes any sense out of it, but it really has me curious. It's one of those that never knew demisexuality was a thing before watching this video, which, by the way, I love.
Uh-oh. The old normal female sexuality is cropping up.
Yep.
Women posting their L's on YouTube.
Well, it's just so interesting that they're tying this to their love of fictional characters because they get to know them and just like it's called a crush. You have a crush.
Can we?
It's called having a crush.
There are so many Sherlock. I remember so many Sherlock fangirls I think of all the people in the world, the only one, like one of the few people I would consider genuinely asexual is Sherlock Holmes, because he's like a sort of calculating, rational machine.
Also heavily autistic, probably.
Yeah, the highest functioning of autists.
Are we forgetting about
Ooh,
Spock
this is a
here?
good one, Kav. This is a good one you have on screen.
As someone who has been trying to figure out my queerness, this term struck me immediately. It was actually my friend who had said they felt that term suited me when we spoke about it. I've been doing more research about the term, and I feel often that I don't qualify to identify as demisexual, despite resonating with the term, if that makes sense. I've had one crush and a couple celebrity crushes, but it was never sexual attraction, barely even romantic. It was more of identifying the person as someone who had the traits that I'm attracted to on an emotional personality level, like courteousness or dedication to something. Though I sometimes theorize that I could actually be sexually attracted to someone whenever I would appreciate or admire certain physical characteristics like muscles, though upon reflection I believe I like people with muscles because I like the idea and implications of someone caring about their health and wellness, working to care for themselves. Okay, well, why else would you like muscles? I don't get it. Anyway, but because I've had these crushes, I feel like identifying as demisexual would make me invalid. The idea of sex without having a truly deep bond, like you described, has always made me feel uncomfortable. And I feel it's because I've never felt that attraction. Am I alone in feeling this way? Does anyone else ever feel like this when you're trying to find terms for your identity?
Most women?
Most women. This is the most female thing I've ever read.
Can we ban women from the internet, please?
No, they're trying to figure it out.
The women on the internet
That's
are
so
trying to figure it
close.
out. They're like, why do I feel this way? It's like, babe, you're a woman. Yep.
Oh, but what is a woman, Kav? Can you define that?
You know, I haven't finished my biology degree, so.
Ooh, wait, there's somebody questioning demisexuality.
Where?
Mimi Usagi.
Mimi Usagi. I thought it was Demi for a long time, but I'm really questioning it. However, I have a friend who is. Some guys tried to make some moves on her. She stated this, and the answer is, I don't believe in that. As if it's a theory and not really what she feels. There's a clear discrimination there. So for me, they're part of the community, even if they're straight. They're still in the ace spectrum.
Yeah, that's so. Once again, it's just all just describing normal behavior.
Just like chaste or conservative or being a woman is like its own sexuality.
Being averse to casual sex.
Is
this pretty much?
Is this the result of demonizing conservatism?
It might be the result of pushing hyper-progressive sexual ethics.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Without considering that humans don't work that way.
The people are coming back to being more conservative just through different means, is what it seems.
Reinventing the wheel.
The sexual revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think this is all just kind of describing normal behavior. Are you guys convinced? Are you guys convinced that it exists after this video?
It's a way of pathologizing normal things because we've depathologized pathology. We're going in a really weird circle.
It's a way of arriving in a very roundabout way at normal womanhood. I think in this sense, demisexuality is very anti-feminine, anti-woman, because it takes what is essentially normal female concepts of love and romance, and it makes them into this it tries to make them into a so-called outcast group or an oppressed group, rather than just rejoicing in the fact that this is what women are like and this is what it means to be a woman.
You see your favorite person got referred to?
Yeah. Do you see, Tenny, that we're in a crossover episode right now?
Oh, no.
I remember Amp was talking about this on What's the Safe Word channel too, about demisexual. I could be part demisexual, but I'm still questioning my sexuality at this point.
What do you mean part demisexual?
That I still don't know.
Part demisexual?
Is this like being part Irish or part Native American? Do you have a 23andMe but for sex?
See, I think that's the shift that happened with her between 2 years ago and now. When 2 years ago she was like, labels aren't really that important, I'm not going to restrict myself. But now she's like very strictly in that demisexual box. I think it's because it's something you're either in full force on or not. Because there's really no middle ground there, is there?
Oh, this person's
So
going to get the
what's the
courage.
sexuality for wanting to take the bins out ahead of bin day? What kind of sexuality is that? That's like advanced demisexual, right?
That's
We always take the garbage out when we hear the garbage truck.
I'm pretty sure that's a thing. So Short Fat Otaku made a video relatively recently about non-binary TikToks, and there's apparently a consistent pattern of non-binary people who have housemates, and their housemates are pissed off at them for not doing dishes and cleaning up after themselves because it's considered they consider it traumatic. And I'm like, what is this? What Peter Pan syndrome ass bitches live like this? What kind of? How are you an adult, like a grown ass human being who doesn't clean up after themselves and like do basic shit like doing dishes, taking out the trash?
Do they have a wall of Funko Pops?
I would not be surprised if they do, because they're basically stuck in childhood. They are just children. It's like that.
No, see, movie, they're not going to be the type to have Funko Pops. They're just going to have the kind of people who have absolutely no hygiene.
Yeah,
like they don't know how to clean things or clean themselves.
Oh, so they have a manga collection, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, they just live in their own filth all the time.
Come on.
Who's the streamer that had like? Who's the streamer that has like that wades through human garbage? Who was talking to everyone's favorite Destiny? Who was that? Was that Demon Mama?
Oh. And why is it always gender non-conforming people who live like that? I don't get it.
Yeah, like
because there's comorbidities with other mental illnesses.
I can't say that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I can't say that.
Oh, no.
Was that too on point?
I mean, you're not wrong though.
I know.
Where is I asked?
That's what makes me sad about it.
Like
that's why I'm so interested in this.
Do you guys remember? Do you guys know the story of the Final Fantasy house? Because I feel like there's a connection between.
Yeah, we talked about it in the zoo file episode.
Oh yeah.
All right. We should wrap. We should because this is going to be hard for Kov to cut because there's a lot to cut out at the end here.
It's going to be so much good stuff.
Do you want to take us out, Kov?
Sure. How should I take us out? Well, there we go. We have, I think, sufficiently honored women with this podcast. So good work, guys. You can pat yourselves on the back. We did it. We solved the woman problem.
Well, personally speaking, my hatred for women has skyrocketed 10,000-fold. So thank you. Let's all give ourselves a round of applause.
Yes, I think final thoughts would be just, for me, it's painfully naive more than anything. Just kind of tied up in knots. Not malicious or deceitful or anything. It's just so naive.
It is, and I think it stems from she talked about queer a lot. It's clearly that she's read things that have to do with queer ideology, even though if she doesn't even recognize that term. And it is like all of those kind of critical theory things, they're very naive ways of looking at the world in a way.
Yeah, I think part of it is definitely just being a normal woman, and part of it's also just not having relationships with people outside of the internet where you could be anything you want and you could make whatever kind of put on whatever face you want to put on to trick people or to convince people of something. And I think maybe if people like this had more meaningful relationships, say with family or with friends, in real life, then maybe this wouldn't be happening per se.
Touch grass, please. Please, for the love of God, just go outside and talk face to face with another person for more than 5 minutes. You'll be fine.
All right, sounds good. So that, I think, is a wrap. We're done with the video. Looked at some comments. Thank you all for showing up and having a good time. All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night, boys.
Good night, Gracie.
Bye.
Women creators are shaping the gaming space by building amazing communities, supporting each other.
There are so many beautiful, vibrant, talented, incredible women content creators on Twitch.
Women creators are shaping this industry in such a beautiful way simply by being themselves.
I celebrate women on Twitch every day by being the representation that I seek.
I have this little corner of the internet that I'm able to just create this really nice space for people.
I want to show that I can do it so other people can also feel like they can do it.
The next generation never has to hear she's only successful because she's a girl.